Hi, my name is Sammy Thiagarajan, but usually I go by Sammy. I'm in the STEM Academy at Bangalore High School, and these past couple years, since I was a sophomore, I'm a senior right now, I've been doing research into the Fibonacci sequence. So I guess I'd first like to start by talking about what the Fibonacci sequence is. So the Fibonacci sequence is this really incredible math sequence. So it starts with 1 and 1, and every term after that is the sum of the previous two terms. So the next term would be 1 plus 1, so 2. The next term will be 2 plus 1, 3. And then you can keep going, you get 5, 8, 13, and so on and so on. So, it sounds kind of simple, but when you look into how much math there's been done about this, it's really incredible. So one super amazing result that was discovered was this. So let's say that, so f sub n is like the nth Fibonacci number, so there's a big formula for this. And if you plug in n is say 3, you get 2. So this big formula, it's kind of crazy, but it's 1 plus the square root of 5 over 2, and actually sorry, that's all over 2, to the n minus 1 minus the square root of 5 all over 2 to the n divided by 2. I think that's right. It might be a root. It might be a square root of 5 down here. I'm kind of blanking a little bit. But so it's really interesting because you'd think it would be really easy if you just you add the previous two numbers, right? You get the next number. Where the heck does all this come in, right? So it's really interesting how you see all this hidden complexities which are awesome. So my research was really looking at what if you take each Fibonacci number here and do 1 over them. So you do 1 over 1 plus 1 over 2. Oh, sorry. 1 over 1. There are 2, 1. 1 over 3. 1 over 5. What do you get if you do this? So a lot of people have looked at this before, and it turns out there's a really nice number, but no one knows what it is in terms of square roots and normal numbers. So my research is really looking at how do you kind of approximate this? How do you get a good idea of what this is using simple methods? And we even extended this to show things what if you look at 1 to the k, what if you look at this to kind of the k power? So what if 1 to the k over 1 plus plus 2 to the k over 1 over 2 so and then 3 to the k over 3 plus dot dot dot. So instead of just ones, what if you had 1 over the first Fibonacci number plus 2 over the second Fibonacci number plus 3 over the third Fibonacci number and so on. And then what if you did 1 over 1 plus, what if you did that squared? So 1 over 1 plus 1 over 1 plus, or 1 over 1 plus 2 squared over 1 plus 3 squared over 2 and so on. So kind of generalizing this idea of it's called a reciprocal sum, and exploring that a little more and adding some variety to it. So we're really looking at kind of how do you approximate this, how do you kind of look at this and think about it, and it's really interesting. So as I said, I've been working on this project since I was a sophomore, and this past year during COVID, I worked on it a lot with my mentors who were professors at Hassan, and he actually, one of my professors invited one of his colleagues, and we worked on it a lot over the summer, and we got it to the point that we were we have a lot of material here, maybe we can publish it. So what we did was we took it, we wrote it all up, we used this fancy programming language called LaTeX to write it up and everything, and then we wrote the paper out and then submitted it to a journal. And after probably 4 months, they got back to us and they're like, yes, we like your paper, we'll publish it. So then there was a lot of back and forth about okay, so first, before we publish it, you need to make these edits. There was some wording that was unclear. They were what does this mean? So we had to go do that. Then they sent it back and they're okay, this looks good. And we also sent back some changes, we were notice some typos. So we sent back some changes, they processed it and they're okay, here's the final draft, we'll give you 2 days if you want to make any final edits. So we sent back maybe 2 or 3 edits, just a couple typos, and they did go back, and they were thanks for your reply, we'll add this in and then publish it. So that's where we are right now, and we're waiting for them to actually go ahead and publish it. And it's been really interesting getting to kind of like know how, getting to like be part of that like process and getting to experience that and learn about that and everything. And it's just been really formative and like a great learning experience for me. So I think if you're ever interested in doing research, this is a like a great process and something that's really interesting and great to learn about.